As many of you guys know that when I went through that whole cancer experience, one of the things that I had was incontinence. And that was really challenging. And I know some people would find that embarrassing. But the fact of the matter is, 1 in 4 men over 40 experience bladder leakage. Now, I wish I had known about this product TENA when I was going through my whole incontinence experience because it's super absorbent. It has odor control, and more importantly, it was engineered for the male body. So if you're struggling with this, there's no need to be embarrassed, there's no need to be ashamed. TENA got you. A product that will provide you with the security, confidence, and comfort you need to do what you have to do. As many of you guys know that when I went through that whole cancer experience, one of the things that I had was incontinence. And that was really challenging. And I know some people would find that embarrassing. But the fact of the matter is, 1 in 4 men over 40 experience bladder leakage. Now, I wish I had known about this product TENA when I was going through my whole incontinence experience because it's super absorbent, it has odor control, and more importantly, it was engineered for the male body. So if you're struggling with this, there's no need to be embarrassed. There's no need to be ashamed. TENA got you. A product that will provide you with the security, confidence, and comfort you need to do what you have to do. So today is the 10-year anniversary of when I got diagnosed with prostate cancer back in 2015. And I just kind of wanted to give an update just about what my journey has been, because I know so many people are experiencing or going through a cancer diagnosis. And for me, I got the diagnosis and I was both surprised, shocked, and I think there was a lot of fear that I didn't really acknowledge, because when I got diagnosed in 2015, 2 of my good friends that same year had passed of cancer. So cancer was kind of something that was kind of around me, but I never thought it was going to come to my door. So when I got the diagnosis, the strange thing about it was, even though 2 of my good friends had passed of cancer that year, I never thought I was going to die. I just never thought that. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just didn't think I was going to die. And I remember at the time I had 3 doctors. I had a primary physician, a urologist, and an oncologist. And all 3 of my doctors, the only thing they were talking about was, we got to get you into surgery. They were talking about radiation. They never talked about chemotherapy, but they talked about doing radiation. And I remember I had just started a new job. So my health insurance was getting ready to lapse from that I was currently under. It was going to lapse like at the end of the month. So that was in August. So I got my diagnosis August 5th. And then my health insurance was going to expire on August 30th. And so I just remember my doctors telling me, you need to have this surgery like immediately. And in the back of my mind, I was feeling pressed because I knew that after August 30th, I wasn't going to have any health insurance. And so they had said that they were going to wanted to put 125 radioactive seeds into my prostate. And this is what they told me. They said, and we'll see if that works. I'm like, so I'm getting ready to do this surgery. We don't even know if this is going to work. And so that gave me pause for concern. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to have this surgery, but we don't know if this is going to work. So the purpose of putting the radioactive seeds into the prostate was that the seeds emit radiation. So their purpose is to kill the cancer cells. But the problem with those seeds is that not only are they supposed to kill cancerous cells, they also are affecting your healthy cells. And at the time, I really didn't know that. I really didn't understand that. which is why I always say to people, if you're going through like a diagnosis of cancer or any other kind of chronic illness, to have somebody there with you that are taking notes and asking questions, because if it's you, you already are overwhelmed. So you're hearing all this stuff and you're not really processing it. So I didn't really understand what the implications of this surgery would be afterwards. And so they gave me I had the surgery, but a couple of days before I went and had the surgery, I met an herbalist who started talking to me about natural ways to heal your body. And she was saying that, changing your diet is so important. And it was during that time, she had given me some resources and some information about different supplements that I should take and things I should take out of my diet. And I came across a study that talked about the fact that meat and dairy had a strong correlation to prostate cancer. Well, shoot, that was what I was eating all the time. And the fact that none of my doctors, mentioned that or talked about that just was a little kind of alarming, because I'm like, when I got the diagnosis, I was thinking, how did this happen to me? Because when my doctors were talking to me, they were just acting as if this cancer just kind of came out of the sky, like it wasn't related to anything. But there's scientific data that shows a correlation with so many diseases like cancer in what we are eating. And so I have the surgery, but I'm getting this new information. And so after the surgery, while I'm recovering, I'm going through so many emotions. Like, I'm feeling like my body had betrayed me, because now I'm in a whole bunch of pain. Now every time I'm going to the bathroom, there's blood, and I am losing the functionality of my body. I went through incontinence, erectile dysfunction, all of these things that are side effects sometimes when you have this kind of procedure. And I'm sure the doctors told me the possibility of these side effects happening. But when I tell you I had every imaginable side effect possible, it was unreal, because up to that point, I had never had any kind of surgery or anything. I had been what I thought was healthy. But what I know now is that I really wasn't healthy, because cancer doesn't just show up. It's a slow process, and then you get a diagnosis. So I started realizing that I needed to make some real changes if my body was really going to heal. Because again, that surgery wasn't a guarantee. And then the surgery didn't address the root cause, because if you have surgery and you go back to eating what you were eating before and living the same lifestyle, you have not addressed the root cause. And so you are creating an opportunity for that disease to come back again. And oftentimes when people go through cancer and it goes into remission and it comes back, it typically comes back even more aggressive. So I made a decision to change how I was feeling my body, because what I was learning is that everything we put in our mouth is either fighting disease or feeding it. And for most of my life, I had been feeding disease and I didn't even know it. I grew up eating the standard American diet, which is a whole bunch of processed food, lots of dairy. I love dairy. I could eat dairy all the time. I could eat cheese. I loved ice cream, all of those things. But all of those things were causing inflammation in my body. And cancer cells love inflammation. So I just started changing my diet. And for me, healing didn't come immediately. It was a journey. I think oftentimes we're praying and wanting healing to happen overnight. But for me, that's not how it happened. And when I think about it, for 48 years, I had been fueling my body with all this garbage. So to think that in a week or 2 weeks, my body was just going to be feeling better or it was going to heal was not really realistic. So I started making all these changes, and nothing didn't seem like anything was changing. Like, I was still dealing with all the pain. I was still dealing with the erectile dysfunction, the incontinence. And I got to tell you, for me, the incontinence probably was the most embarrassing thing, because I remember the first time when I realized I was going to have to start wearing adult diapers, Pampers, whatever you want to call them, was me and my son were driving. We were coming back from the mall, and I had to go to the bathroom. And when I say, when you have incontinence, the moment you feel like you got to go to the bathroom, you don't have time. Like, you've been in a situation where you're like, oh, I have the urge, I need to pee, but I can hold it. No, you can't hold it. And so I remember pulling into this gas station and running to the bathroom at the gas station. And I get to the gas station bathroom, and it says out of service. And my bladder just standing there, it just released. And it was so humiliating. And I had to get back in the car with my son, and I'm just soaked, and I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening. How is this my life? And it just felt like my body had betrayed me. And I realized I had to finally just suck it up and go get, those things so that I would have protection if that happened again. And I just kept thinking, gosh, when is this going to stop? When is the pain going to end? When is the incontinence and all that other stuff? When is this going to be over? And I realized that change really does take time. It takes time. And I just kept fueling my body with foods that I knew were healing. So I was eating a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables. I started juicing. I was making sure I was taking all my supplements. And eventually the healing came. But that was probably a whole year before it happened. And I remember, though, during that process, going back to the doctor, I had gone back to the doctor, and they had said, there was no evidence of cancer, but still, I was still having the erectile dysfunction, the incontinence, and the pain. And they were like trying to push all these pills on me. They're like, well, we can give you a pill for the incontinence, the erectile dysfunction. But by that time, I knew that every pill that they were wanting to give me had side effects. So you're going to give me a pill for the incontinence, but then they have these side effects. So then you want to give me another pill for those side effects. And I knew that was not the road I wanted to go down. And I knew that all of those pills were toxic. And I was trying to make sure that I wasn't putting a lot of toxins in my body. And so I refused to take any of those pills. And I just kept on, doing what I was doing, eliminating all of the stuff that I knew caused inflammation, that fed cancer cells. And about a year or so after all of that, the erectile dysfunction went away, the incontinence went away, and I started to feel like myself, and the pain went away. The pain for me used to be so intense that I would go into my bathroom and I would put towels underneath the door so my son wouldn't hear me screaming. That's just how intense it was. And I remember back then, I would put little Post-it notes on my mirror, just trying to encourage myself. I would write, "I am enough. This too shall pass," because there were times I just didn't want to keep going. And I know how people can get to that point when you just are dealing with excruciating pain and you don't know when the pain is going to end, and you're dealing with all these side effects and just not feeling normal, and you just want to give up. I know what that feels like. And my bathroom kind of became, my sanctuary. And what I know now is that healing is not just about what you put in your body. It's also, what's going on in your head and in your heart. And for me, it was me learning to encourage myself, It was also me learning to not take life so seriously, because if you're dealing with a lot of stress, and for me, I had normalized stress. I was used to being stressed out all the time. It was normal for me. But what I know now is stress weakens your immune system, makes you susceptible to all kinds of diseases, including cancer. And I started really working on not allowing things to stress me out, you know. And the diagnosis will do that to you, because you realize the stuff you thought was important ain't important. Like the things that used to stress me, you know, those bills that are outstanding, well, if they get paid, if they, you know, they do, if they don't. But what you can't get back is your life. And it helped me to put things in perspective. And during that time also, I got into therapy because I realized I had some unhealed trauma. And a lot of times we're carrying around a lot of pain, a lot of anxiety, and that also can keep you sick. And but eventually, you know, after doing the therapy, changing my diet, juicing, supplements, eventually healing came. And it's been 9 years for me now that I've been cancer-free, probably over 8 years now that I've been pain-free, not having to deal with erectile dysfunction or incontinence. And what I know now, and I want you to know, is that change is possible and healing is possible. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. But it's possible. And if you're going through, you know, a healing experience, you know, I always say just be mindful not only of what you put in your body, but also what you say. You know, your words have power. And a lot of times we be cursing our situations and ourselves. Like I never talk about, I always talk about cancer as if it was, I went through a cancer experience. Not that I had cancer, I went through a cancer experience. So just being mindful of your words and being mindful of the people you have around you, you know, because if people see you going through a challenge, they could feed into the negativity like, oh, you look really bad. Oh, woe is me. You don't need that. You want to be around folks that are going to be encouraging and uplifting. But what I know now, though, is that a lot of times we say that, oh my God, disease runs in my family, you know, because your grandmother had this illness or this disease, or your dad had this. What I know now is that it's not necessarily that disease runs in your family. It's oftentimes the habits that lead to disease. So if you're eating the same thing that your cousin who had cancer did, or you're dealing with stress the same way, well, you may have similar outcomes, but it doesn't have to be. There's so many studies that show that, you know, lifestyle is about 90 to 95% a predictor of disease, and genetics is maybe 5 to 10%. So lifestyle plays a much larger role than even genetics. But I just want to encourage you, as someone who 10 years ago never even thought that cancer would knock at my door, and it did, and I'm still here. I'm healthy, cancer-free. I don't take any prescription medications, so I know that change is possible. So if you're going through a health journey, a health crisis, just know you can get through this, and you will get through this. So, all right, I'm a living witness. All right, so you just keep on keeping on. Time, and I just kept fueling